Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. It's the second part of our World Cup break special, breaking down our lifetime Hibs 11s. Last week you had myself, Harry, and Liam doing it. Harry's off swanning it up in the States. I think is he flying home tonight? I think maybe. Obviously I'm here and Liam is potentially joining us. He's just other commitments. So if he joins us halfway through, excellent. If not, then Greg and Ryan are getting a free pass from hammerings off anyone that named their teams last week. How you doing, boys?
All right, aye, yourself.
Good, mate. Good, Greg.
I'm not bad, aye.
You picked a good team after the slaughtering you gave Harry last week.
I think I've picked a good team. Look, I went off first instincts. I've not changed it.
Right. Okay.
My shite bag. I'm not going back on it. So yeah, I mean, look, if anyone wants to come and have a pop, then feel free. But
Ryan, you had any last minute changes? I know. I don't
aye,
think
aye,
Harry changed much last minute last week, but I know myself and Liam were changing it right up to this point we started recording.
I've made one change, and as I go through it, I'll tell you what it was. There's a couple of tough ones for me, but I've kind of based it off. So my criteria kind of was somebody that's maybe done something memorable, or it could even be somebody that's maybe played, and you'll find out played one game that stood out.
Okay.
It's not based kind of on like success or anything like that. It's players that I've enjoyed watching,
Nice.
and that have kind of
Um,
done it
what
for me.
what just maybe before we're going to get from both of you, what sort of timeline are we looking at? Like, Greg, what year have you sort of, but what year was the furthest you went back to? Just so people can sort of know what to expect.
2000, I think. So the player, in fact, 99, mate, is
Okay,
the season
right.
that one of the oldest players is from.
Okay, Ryan.
Yeah, my timeline will be probably the same as Greg's, but early 2000s.
Cool. Right, Ryan, you take us away first. Formation, please, and your back
Um,
and your goalkeeper.
so since the ground rules were set that we weren't allowed any funky formations, I've had to go 4-3-3. So
Okay.
I'll just run you through the keeper and the back four. So I've got Conrad Logan in goals.
Right, that's the
Um,
second Conrad Logan, is it?
um, Aye, because Harry had him as well. I just this we don't win the Scottish Cup unless he plays in that semi final the way he does. Made three big saves. Hadn't he played football in 16 months? Saved two penalties. He was just outstanding there. Like when he turned up, you think, Jesus, who's this amateur? But
Yep.
I think he put a lot of doubters to bed that day. Left back was a tough one between two players, but I went for Louis Stevenson. I've
Okay.
got Frank Soze at centre back with Rob Jones and David Gray at right back.
Okay. Run us through your choices. You obviously broke down Conrad Logan a bit there. Was there anyone else in contention?
So it was a tough one between Stevenson and Murphy for left back, just because of the quality that Murphy possessed. Like he was just an unbelievably gifted player. First touch, could cross the ball very well. Just total professional, eh? But I mean, Louis Stevenson has got ahead of him from kind of the longevity that he's had.
Okay.
He's played 438 league games for Hibs. He's been capped for Scotland. He's won Fans Player of the Year 7 years apart. So that shows you that he's played at a high level for a long time. Made his debut at 17 and he's won both of the cups. So I couldn't really see past him, to be honest, although it was quite close. He just had to get in ahead of
Yeah.
Murphy.
So, and then two cup winning captains in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for like I said to you, the kind of criteria I went for, David Gray gave us all a moment that like we'll never ever forget, and for that moment alone, I would have picked him,
Cool.
scoring the winning goal. But yeah, I just think that whenever he played, he kind of put his heart and soul into it. I mean, that's kind of par for the course, but he was a great servant and a good captain.
Right, cool. And the obvious pick in there beside them, was it come easy decision in centre back?
So Rob Jones was the one that I changed. I actually had a wee curveball. I was going to put Darren McGregor in there just because I loved the way that he played, especially in the championship season. I thought he was very dominating in the air, decent on the ball at the time. He wasn't never great on the ball, but he was decent enough on the ball during the time in the championship. Um, Boyhood Hibs fan, and you could tell that when he played. He was solid. But the marquee one's obviously Frank Soze. I mean, how the hell you managed to sign him, I'll never know. Won the Champions League, won 3 French titles. See, I've got a wee bit of this written down here.
Prepped.
Two
I hope
two
you're
domestic
prepped.
cups in France, and he actually won an
What a-
under-21 championship with France, the European Championship. But yeah, he used class. Like, he was unbelievable. Scored 2 great goals against the Hearts when we were unbeaten in 9 games as well.
Solid
Great player.
backline. That was a very solid backline. Midfield 3, and what's the setup of them? Is it one set?
Right, so I've got kind of 2 box to box and then a number 10.
Right.
I was going to change the midfield based on the ripping that Harry got for his being very attacking, but I thought the 2 guys I've got in the middle have got great engines. So the first one I've got in there is John McGinn.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably be in most of our teams. Has he been in everybody's team so far?
I don't.
No, I don't think so.
He made mine and Harry's. I don't think he made Liam's team.
Right. He didn't make Liam's. Liam's got a longer timeline than the rest of us, so.
He's not in my team either.
Oh well, 3 beats 2,
Correct.
I'll beat you now.
Jesus Christ, you're going to punch me through the phone here, boys. So I've got John McGinn in there. You don't really need to say much about this guy. Great ball carrier, really tenacious. Sometimes it looked like he had 3 lungs the way he was going. And I think you can see his quality by the career he's went on to have. But I mean, based on his time at Hibs, he was class.
Yep.
He was class. Next to him, I know predominantly he didn't actually play this position regularly when he was at Hibs. He kind of played more either out in the right or behind the striker, Scott Brown.
Okay.
Again, another great engine. At the time we sold him, it was a record transfer fee, 4.4 million we got from, which I think was pretty good. He won the Young Player of the Year as well.
Yeah.
When the Scottish Football Writers Association Young Player of the Year when he came through. Class, went on to have a great career, great player. I think all the titles he went on to win speaks for itself.
Yep. And who's your number 10?
Russell Latipi. See, anybody that parties as hard as him and is still that good at football, man, like, he's getting in my team. You know, if you go back and watch the game that we won against Hearts when we thumped them, like, he played a pivotal role in quite a few of the goals. He was very silky and had great pedigree when we first signed him. I think he played for Porto in the past.
Yeah,
which is a big European club. It's a shame the way it ended, though. You know, we could have got another couple of years out of him playing at a good level. But yeah, I loved watching him. He always had a trick up his sleeve. Was always laying on goals. Chipped in with a few goals. Very classy player. And then my actual favourite player of all time, playing on the left wing, is Derek Riordan.
Okay.
Right, came through the youth setup, won various Player of the Year awards, Young Player of the Year, etc. I think when he came back and he wore 0-1, man, that was brilliant. I love that kind of stuff. And banging him in from like 30 yards against Hearts, can't beat it. You just can't beat it. So he played 225 games in the league and scored 90 goals. That's a decent return. That's a very decent return.
I think would it be safe to say in all of our lifetimes the only player that's racked up over 100 goals for Hibs?
I think so. Is it?
I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
Greg, what are you making of this team so far? I know he's only got 2 to go, but maybe
it's not bad, to be fair. No, it's not bad.
Thank God for that, man. I thought I was going to get dug out there, like.
I think it's not too dissimilar from my team. I don't think thus far.
I think it's a good team, but Harry set the bar very low. So
hope you're listening, Harry.
Anyone in there that you would have absolutely not even considered, Greg, so far?
You know what? Like, I'm tempted to say John McGinn, to be fair, and I know that might be controversial, but based off, look, I didn't really consider him. Based off the sort of midfielders I've seen at the club, and I think that there's been better players in there than him, but the
John McGinn one maybe comes a wee bit from recency bias as well, though, because I mean, since him, what kind of midfielders have stood out to be somebody that can run 30 yards of the ball, win you free kicks, take players on, score goals.
So I think that's a lot of it. It's difficult picking your all-time favourite 11 because you've either got players you grew up watching that became your heroes quickly, think you've probably got a big gap in between that and recency bias.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. I know
And
we love saying
anyone
recency bias and sample size in this podcast. It's
Right,
really the order,
anyone-
to be honest.
was there anyone in that midfield that you really wanted to get in that you didn't?
Boozy. Boozy would have been a good shout for me, but probably because I'd seen more of John McGinn. You know, I'd been to more games during the time that John McGinn had played. It kind of what he done was kind of fresh in my mind as opposed to Boozy being a wee bit further back. But yeah, it was tight between those two. Scott Brown was a given for me though. I loved him when he first came through. He was like one of my favourites. I'll tell you one person that was going to be absolutely nowhere near it was that Rat Thompson. So I'll give you the last two players I've got.
Yep.
Right. So on the right wing's Martin Boyle. Again, some of the things he's done have given me some like memorable trips. The hat trick against Rangers in the League Cup semi-final, one of the best days at Hampden for me. It was just an unbelievable trip through there and back. I think everybody had kind of written Hibs off for that game. Obviously, we hadn't been playing too well, etc., etc. When he first came in, we got him on a loan deal and a swap for Alex Harris. I mean, how does that compare? Hey, look at the player we got. Sold him for a record fee as well. Brought him back for a record fee, I think.
Yep, I believe that.
And he's probably the highest ever earner at Hibs. So says a lot for what people think of him, you know.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he's had a series of bad injuries, you know, because he's probably missed quite a lot of games through that. I think he's out for the rest of this season. He's missed a season before, isn't he? So, yeah, unfortunate. 216 games, 55 goals. Not bad for a player that was once at Montrose,
And I mean, he's been a good chunk of that played at right wing back, Greg, as well, right? Boyle in his earlier days at Hibs, especially that sort of first season back up in the top flight.
And then he had his antics in the warm weather camp in the winter, and then Lennon was killing him for 5 months.
It was him, Stokes and Swanson, wasn't it? And he was the only one that got to hang about.
Yeah.
So I think with this team, there's a few characters in there. Like, imagine a night out with them. It'd be phenomenal, eh? Martin Boyle's wild, but the next one's pretty wild as well. Like, I'll be honest with you. So up front, I've got Anthony Stokes. Yeah, he scored 21 league goals in a season. Any Hibs player that scores 21 league goals in a season. What is
That's incorrect. Because I've looked at my stats as well, mate. You've that's okay. Just you carry on, but you're wrong.
No. Correct me. How many is it?
22 and 40.
22 and 40 is even better. So cheers for that, Greg. So there you go. You
That's
scored
right
22 goals. I mean, that's an unbelievable record.
I just want to verify this here. So he got 22 and 40 in all comps.
Then he got 5 and 14 on loan.
He scored 21 goals in the league in the first season with us. So you're both correct.
There we go. Right. Anyway, fist pump, Greg. We're still pals. He scored the fastest goal in SPL history, my man. Right. So, Greg, I don't know if you want to check this, but he scored.
I never got fucked 4-1 after.
Ah, exactly. What good does that? How many points does that get you?
No. I'm just listen. This is what I'm going to say though. But he was just a natural born goal scorer, right? Like he could sniff goals out. He scored twice in the Scottish Cup final. Had them on toast that day. Made 72 league appearances and scored 34 goals. That's almost 1 and 2.
Yeah. There was actually one goal he scored for Celtic at Easter Road. That was like, how has he managed that? I think it was fed in the box. He chipped it, and I think it's just nestled perfectly. Like, how have you done that? How can you do that?
Actually,
he's incredible.
One of the things I remember a lot with Stokes when he first came in, it took him a while to score. And I can actually remember the game he scored his first goal. It was St Johnstone at home. We were actually shite. I've got quite a clear memory. I was going to say vivid memory of this one, Greg, because I know you picked up on that phrase last week as well. But yeah. I can remember it quite clearly. We were absolutely shite to start the game, and I think we ended up being like 3-0 up at half time. I think Stokes scored 2 and Riordan scored, and we'd been absolutely tortured. But Stokes scored that day, and it was a really good finish. And then
went a purple patch.
The floodgates just opened after that. And
the no-win goal this season as well for his goal at Ibrox.
Ibrox,
He took it on. It was Zamama played the ball in. He took it on the chest and lifted it over the keeper.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'd also just like to double down actually even further and say you're both correct. I think Ryan was referring to 21 goals in one league campaign.
Yeah, I was.
It was 22 league goals and 40 in his first spell with us in the top flight. So he's were both all heard it there. Like he's were.
But I did notice you got the main
played...
stat right, which is 72 league apps and 34 goals, which is exactly what I got. So the maths does add up, Ryan. So we can be friends for 5 minutes longer at this point.
Right.
I'm glad.
Ryan, give us a recap of that team and then tell us the man that's in charge of it.
All right, no bother. So Conrad Logan in goals, Lewis Stevenson at left back, Frank Soze and Rob Jones centre backs, David Gray at right back, John McGinn and Scott Brown in midfield, going box to box. I've got Russell Latipi at 10, Martin Boyle on the right wing, Derek Riordan on the left wing, and Anthony Stokes spearheading the attack.
Who's the manager?
So you want me to pick a manager? Does it need to be different to what the other two have already picked?
No, absolutely not.
Sorry.
Absolutely not. You can have it if you want it. What did we have last week? We had Mowbray, McLeish, and John Hughes last week is what we had. So
the best football that I've seen Hibs play, the most enjoyable football, especially with the amount of youth players we had in the team, would have been under Tony Mowbray. That was when I was in love with football. I was young, football meant everything, and that team was everything. So I would say Tony Mowbray.
How quickly that changes, Ryan.
I was going to say, I don't know he's trying to kid. This boy goes up and down the country every week. I think he's still very much in fucking love with
No, I would just call that stupidity at this point.
Aye.
I'm too far gone, mate. There's no going back now. Like
you're in. Right, Greg. Let's change you up. Who's masterminding? What manager is masterminding your team to victory over Ryan's?
Neil Lennon.
Right, okay. And what formation is he lining us up in?
It's difficult. So it can interchange. So between a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-4 and a 4-3-3. Sorry.
You're lucky Liam's not here, by the way.
So similar to what Ryan said.
What is she going to do? Like, she going to come for me or not? I don't think so.
Last week you'll just go, no, Liam, it's okay, Liam, it's okay.
To be fair, 4-2-3-1's not an unorthodox.
No, that's fine.
Formation.
Similar to what Ryan said.
Ryan, will you stop trying to dig me out already? I've not even said anyone's name and you're digging me out.
So a two in midfield, then a number 10, basically, Greg.
Ultimately, yes.
Right. Talk us through your goalkeeper and your back four.
Okay, so my goalkeeper's Nick Colgan.
Right.
Okay. I had Colgan one on the back. I had goalie top. I think it's the only goalie top of our own. So
was it
felt faithful to him.
Big like silver shiny thing?
It was a yellow one, but it was huge. Right. I had to get tucked in. Right back, Stephen Whittaker, Frank Soze and Rob Jones at centre half, and Ulrich Larsson at left back.
Okay, right. So a few things to go over here, right? So you're the first person that's not picked Marciano or Conrad Logan. What gave Nick Colgan the edge for you?
I just thought he was a very good goalkeeper. I'm not really having Marciano, to be honest. I think he was good, but Conrad Logan, sentimental in it. That's all that is. But I really like Nick Colgan, to be fair. I thought he was a very good goalkeeper. I thought he was very good, and yeah, nothing really else to add to that.
In the goalkeeping department, like for when we do try to put together the 11 from the five of us, it would come down to Logan and Marciano. So give us the cast and vote on who gets our goalkeeper position out of the two, please.
Well, it's not going to be Marciano, that's for sure.
Right. Conrad Logan's goals. Right, you're right back. You went with Stephen Whittaker. That's the second pick for Stephen Whittaker over David Gray. Again, talk us through why you went with Stephen Whittaker.
When Stephen Whittaker first came through, he was raw and you could see that, but he was a right back that wasn't afraid to get forward. He'd also try and look to cut inside on his left. He would mix it up. He wouldn't be predictable. Like, he would sometimes go down the outside or sometimes cut inside. Thought he was a very good talent, a huge talent at that age, and like he went on to have a decent career. But I was very impressed all the time. He would never shy away, and he would always look for the ball, which I'm always looking for my fullbacks.
And what gave it the edge over David Gray? Because yeah, even out with the cup final,
Mhm.
etc. I think was it myself and Ryan, I think, and maybe Harry last week. No, he was a big game player out with the cup final as well.
Yeah, look, David Gray's not a bad player, but I just think maybe a little bit sentimental at times. I felt like maybe I had two good seasons, I would say. And even then, I thought, I don't
Started
know.
to
I
see
look,
more
I
injuries.
guess that for me, I just felt like Stephen Whittaker was a better option than
Okay,
David
all
Gray.
right,
Like David Gray obviously scored a really important goal and a couple always be in debt term, but I think overall as a football player at the time they were at the club, I felt like Stephen Whittaker was the better player.
That's fair. Your centre backs, easy choice for you, same as Ryan. I think the same as Liam as well.
Yeah,
I think me and Harry both had Rob Jones as well, and obviously Frank Sosey was. It would have been a bit too cheap of me to put him in my team.
I
Comfortable.
think the centre half speak for themselves. Like Rob Jones is very physical, aggressive, will go and attack the ball, and Franks was a ball player.
Yeah.
Really, really easy choice. Although I did swither with Matthias Doomby as well. I did like him when he was at the club, but
Not a
Susie and
huge,
Jones just excellent.
not a huge sample size to go from there, I guess.
Usual. Should play down the slope bingo.
Right, and left back. This is it's a new name. Last week we
Yep.
had three David Murphys in the team.
Yeah.
How we wished we probably could have had 11. Ryan went for Lewis Stevenson.
Mhm.
Aye, Ulrich Larsson.
Yeah.
Went
I
under
don't know if this was
the
because I was conscious that there was three last week, and I was certain Ryan was going to pick him as well. For me, Larsson was just so good at everything. And I'm not saying David Gray wasn't, but he could go forward, he could attack, he could defend, he could stick folk in the terrace, like he could do everything. And he was so
Eric,
big and powerful. And do you know what? He was a proper left back that could just do everything. He was quite ahead of his time, to be fair, because that's what left backs are expected to do now. They're expected to go forward and defend and do everything, but he could do it all. And
Did
he
you,
ended up playing at centre half at Celtic as well.
would you have been more inclined to choose David Murphy then, had you thought, it wasn't going to be a whitewash in that sense?
I don't know because it was very tight between the two of them.
Mm.
I don't know. I felt like
Really deserved a shout out, and
I felt I felt like Larson was probably better defensively. Maybe Murphy was better going forward, but that's not to say Ulrich Larsson was bad going forward. So purely on defensively, I would have to say that Ulrich Larsson edges it, and ultimately he's a defender in a
yeah.
back four. So
Right, so I think we've reached the conclusion of the down the slope one as well there. I think there's a pretty obvious. So we're going Logan and goals.
mhm.
David Gray's just edging out Stephen Whittaker, 3-2 at right back. Left back, David Murphy, and then Rob Jones and Frank Sosey at centre half. That's
Yep.
where we're at between the five is. Oh, pretty solid that back line, right? Pretty happy with that.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I just want to say, Greg, that's a great shout. Like nursing at left back, fantastic player, great player, solid.
Superb.
Never shied away
Mate,
from
do
anything.
you know what? He was incredible, to be fair. Like, he had so much energy up and down the line, and I generally don't remember. I don't really think he would ever be caught out or in danger. He was just so
He could
composed on
read
the
the game
ball as
well as
well.
well, eh? Aye, absolutely. Good shout, bud.
So, yeah.
Right, Greg, take us away into your midfield three, your two, then a one, I believe it is.
Yep. So I've got Matty Jack and Guillaume Bouzelin.
Okay, Matty Jack first. Are we allowed to say friend of the show? Because we spoke to him for an hour, and
To be fair, he did invite us over to his boozer, so I would say friend of the show.
right. What
Personal friend, even.
I think that's the first time Matty Jack's been mentioned again, a bit like Ulrich Larsson and Nick Colgan. I think we all spoke about it after we finished recording last week, or maybe it was when we were still recording. But again, what stood out for you in terms of Matty Jack ahead of all the other options that have been mentioned?
For me, like Matty Jack would always be known as the hatchet man almost, but for me, he's there to break up the play and allows the others almost free rein to go ahead and play more football. So I think alongside a very technical player in Boozy, I think that's the perfect combination for me.
Okay.
You know, Matty Jack's probably the more physical, Boozlin's the more technical. So I think you've got a good balance in there.
You've got a real defensive sort of solid base there going on, haven't you? With Larson,
Mm-hmm.
the two centre backs, Matty Jack. You know, you're pretty,
Yep.
very comfortable at the back there. So I'm
Yep.
hoping
Listen,
hoping for
Boozley
some
could score
expansive
goals as
stuff.
well.
Aye, I'm hoping for some expansive stuff for the remaining four. But aye, Boozy gets in your team. Think did he get in? He got in Harry's team, and I think he got in Liam's team.
Yeah.
I didn't put him in my team, nor did Ryan. Was that a no-brainer for you?
Yeah, that much ability and the way he would conduct himself on the pitch, he would get in the box. He would, look to score goals. It is a no-brainer, to be honest. He was one of the most technical players I've seen at the club in the way that he would manage to control the ball and work the game and run the game, to be honest.
Okay. So who do you have at number 10?
Russell Latterby.
Okay.
Whether it was smoking cigars in the change room or out in the pitch, he was just absolute caviar. Unbelievable football player.
Right, so before we come on to that, so that I think wraps up our midfield three there as well in terms of players that have had 3 votes. I think that's our midfield three: John McGinn, Russell Latterby in the 10, and Boozy. Would we all still pretty content with what we've had so far?
Happy with that. Happy with that.
Yeah. We might have a content with. We've got Scott Brown, I think, that's had 3 votes as well. However, I'm vetoing him because Liam had him in a more advanced role. So unless Greg.
Where did Liam put him? Right mid?
No, Liam had him.
Shadow striker.
Liam had him off the front. Aye, Liam had him as part of his front too. So,
No.
aye.
Okay.
Greg, front 3. So when we say this, so you said 4-2-3-1, or so are we talking like proper right and left wingers, or are we talking proper front 3 here?
It's difficult. I would maybe stick more with a 4-2-3-1 if I was honest.
Right.
If I was going to play this. I've got Scott Brown at right mid.
Okay.
And Derek Radden at left mid.
So I think that secures Riordan on the left-hand side. I think that's a given. Scott Brown, I think, probably has to miss out on the entire down the slope one, given just the random selection of position. But he might sneak in there if we've not got a consensus at right wing. I can't remember. But talk to me about the two. Riordan, maybe one of your first. Maybe second batch of Hibs heroes at that point. Then maybe.
Absolutely. I feel like it's quite a good balance as well because Scott Brown's maybe more direct. Riordan's more coming in off the left, and he had the ability to find the target for 30 yards out. So yeah, he was a no-brainer, to be honest. Unbelievable technical ability, unbelievable goal scoring record, to be honest, and he was just he was a proper. I know we maybe branded us a bit, but he was a proper Hibs man. He always gave it everything, but you could probably always tell that he'd been out on the Friday
night. What I think's been clear across all 3 teams, regardless of, you've got Liam down to Harry, and then the rest of sort of filter in between in terms of ages and stuff. That golden generation, if you like, of Riordans, O'Connors, Whitakers, Browns, they've featured a lot in the teams. Who, for you, was the 1 or 2 main standouts for you in that era? For me personally, Riordan and Brown were the ones that really, really excited me, like that. They were the 2 that really stuck out for me as because we were all kids at that point ultimately.
Yeah, for me, and I really hate myself for saying this, but Kevin Thompson, I did really like the way he went about his business.
Yeah.
He could play in the centre, he could play out in the left, and I thought he was very, very good on the ball. The way it ended wasn't great, but I think that's been said a couple of times about a few players. So him and Riordan. Definitely, I felt like Scott Brown was unlucky with injuries, really unlucky with injuries. So we maybe seen more of they too. Thompson and Riordan, but they were certainly the two that really excited me. And then so Gary O'Connor up front was a very physical unit. But the two most exciting are probably Thompson and Riordan, but I almost hate saying the name.
Ryan, it's an interesting debate when it comes to a lot of that generation, Riordan especially. You know, Thompson probably struggled a lot for injuries. You know, whether we like it or not, we can't really. He went to Rangers and had a pretty successful spell there in terms of winning leagues and playing in European finals. Did that generation individually as a team underachieve, do you think? Or did they do enough at Hibs, do you think? Maybe they could have done more? And then
I think because, given that they were so young, I think they still had more to give. So whilst they were at Hibs together, they were all still kind of learning their trade to a degree. So I think had we managed to keep them together for longer, we would have seen more success. You know, obviously we had relative success with such a young team, you know, doing as well as we did, although we didn't win anything. I mean, obviously League Cup, but had we managed to keep them all together, I think we would have definitely would have been a bit more success. I mean, the fact that most of them kind of went on and had good careers and won trophies and won individual awards out with Hibs kind of shows you what we had. Ultimately, though, when a player's got ability and aspirations to go and win things, they're going to eventually move on. That's just the nature of the beast. But as Greg was saying, Kevin Thompson was one of the more impressive ones. I hate myself too for saying that prick's name, but the technical ability he had was phenomenal. With great passing range, he was good in the tackle as well. Good at pressing, very good player. Although he's not
as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did when he was younger. Although I haven't put him in my team, Stephen Whittaker was very impressive at right back. He kind of played with a maturity beyond his years. You know, he kind of played like he'd been playing for years. You know, he kind of knew where to be and how to position himself. He was very impressive, but I could never ever see past Riordan. He was just, when somebody's scoring screamers against Hearts from 30 yards, and last minute penalties at Tynecastle, you love the guy, eh?
Yeah. Right, Greg. We are going to come back around that conversation, but finishes off with your striker. I think we both know who it is, given you never have stats and you had one nice and ready. But shockers, who is your
Here's another
lone
stat for you
striker?
hates Elvis impersonators. The one and only Anthony Christopher Stokes. What a boy.
Would he have been in your team out with if Anthony Stokes had one spell at Hibs?
Mm-hmm.
Would he have made your team? You know that first spell, obviously.
What, the very first spell?
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Incredible goal scorer. Incredible. Unbelievable. Like, it's so natural.
Yeah, you've mentioned a one goal of the season. What is your favourite Anthony Stokes sort of goal memory? Ryan's obviously mentioned a one goal of the season that year. He scored after 12 seconds, which remains the fastest goal and I think it was ever in the SPL. Obviously, the SPL is no more. What's your sort of standout memories of Anthony Stokes? Maybe in that first spell, because obviously there is an obvious one for the second.
Yeah, in the first spell, it would probably be that goal against Rangers. It was like, I think Zamala played 30-yard ball into him, and he just takes on his chest, calm as you like, and lifts it over the goalie. Like, and obviously we all know that he doesn't like Rangers, so I just think for a striker at that level to do something like that is special, because he's just so much ability he had. You can go on about his off-field problems all the time, but Riordan had it. Brown had it to an extent. Like,
is there
his ability would just shine through every week.
Is that what we need in the current team? Do we need folk to just start kicking off the field? Because Griffiths wasn't about his problems even when he was at him. He's had all these issues since as well. But even when he was at the club, he wasn't about his problems. Like O'Connor didn't have these problems to seat Rad, and have we had a striker capable of scoring 20 goals that wasn't also capable of spending the night in the cells in our lifetime?
I think if you look at the squad at the moment, it's like Harry McCurdy. I think he's the dickhead striker we need.
He's a maverick.
He carries himself in a way that people probably hate, but I think he's got the ability to go and score 20 goals a season and be a dick and whatever.
It was an interesting.
I think.
It was an interest. I don't know if you read the interview done with Moira Gordon this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting article. What did you make of that? Is because when you break it down, it feels like, because of this World Cup, we're used to Christmas time feeling like a huge, massive part of the season. The build up to, and obviously between Christmas and New Year, we've got 4 games. The first 4 games back, they're all in quick succession, but we are still quite early in the season. We've still got 2/3 of it left. Do you think that, and the way he came across in that interview was correct? He was talking about his lack of game time and stuff. Do you still expect him to be able to kick on?
See if my striker's not happy with his game time, good. If my striker's happy with not playing, then there's a problem there. But he's not happy with the game time, and I believe that he's one of these players that might come across maybe a bit arrogant off the pitch, but I've got no doubt that he works hard in training, and I think he will get games and he will score goals. I don't doubt that at all. But I think people need to sort of realise that League Two to this league, it's different. He does need time to settle. He's moved away from home, and he does need time just to settle in. And he needs games to settle in as well. But he's not really had that.
Yeah, right.
I think he's probably. So I was just going to say, I think he's probably one of those players that's quite capable of going on a run of 5 or 6 goals in as many games, and then maybe going quiet again for a couple of weeks, and like a streaky player, purple patches here and there in the season, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
If I'm honest, if they're not streaky, they're not Hibs.
There you go.
Yeah, if they're scoring goals every week, then they're not Hibs.
Yeah,
but his goal scoring record speaks for itself.
Then you are looking at like an Anthony Stokes situation.
They
come to Hibs for the one season and they bang goals in and they move on. Or you could even probably say the same thing about Kevin Nisbet in that first season in COVID. I mean, Birmingham they were already sniffing about, and he'd only been in for 6 months. I think we're all probably realistic enough to think if Kevin Nisbet after this. Now we know last season he wasn't great before his injury. I don't think anyone can forget that. But if he comes back in and replicates his first season form, he's probably not at Hibs in 18 months.
Yeah.
And that's just ultimately where we are. Right, let's get back to this all-time malarkey. So I don't think we can quite settle on a front three in terms of down the slope one combined one, because I think we've got too many different ones. So we'll get it out on Twitter during the week. But a few players that never really got mentioned at all, definitely didn't get mentioned today. One obvious one, maybe Stephen Fletcher. Was he under consideration at all? I don't think he got mentioned last week either. He was one of that golden generation that maybe arguably had the best career.
Yeah, but he didn't really score that many goals, if I'm honest. I think his lowest scoring season was the one that he moved on.
Yeah.
He was a good player, but I just felt like the others maybe had more goals in them. Maybe Fletcher was more of a rounded player. He could do more. He could go and win headers and sort of hold it up. But yeah, I don't think he was ever really under consideration. It's all very well saying, "Oh, look at the career they've had," but this is a Hibs 11. This isn't an all-time career 11. So based off that, we wouldn't get my team.
I agree with Greg there. I don't think he was a natural goal scorer either. He didn't seem to be as instinctive as an Anthony Stokes in front of goal. He probably did have more to his game in terms of aerial ability, holding the play up, bringing others into play. But I think when you're going with a central striker up there, getting fed from either wing, you want somebody that's really instinctive. So that's kind of why I went for Stokes. He's just a natural born goal scorer, whereas Stephen Fletcher kind of had to work harder at it. Like, came naturally to Stokes.
Yeah. Well, because there's only 3 years this week, we've got a lot more time. So let's play a little game. I want you to pick for me the one player that you could drop into from your 11s into the current Hibs team, but I don't want you to pick the most obvious one in your team. So I'm withdrawing Frank Soze from the Perriers. Greg, you're up first.
Tough one. I'd probably be tempted to say Boozy.
Okay. What do you think he would add into our team right now that we're missing?
Someone that can properly play in midfield for a kick-off. I think the flair on the ball and the flair in possession would help us a lot. Lee Johnson wants to play a certain way, but I feel like maybe a bit too one-dimensional, what would be predictable all the time. I feel like Boozy would always try and play that risky pass, and I need to get in the box and look to score goals, which I feel like midfield. Joe Neal's chipped in a couple of goals this season, but we need more from midfield, and I think he's the man to do it. I think the way that the leadership aspect as well. Maybe miss a proper leader in the middle of the pitch alongside Neil. So I would have to pick him. I think the midfield's probably a big area that we miss out on. Sort of taking away the main centre half there, Rob Soze. So midfield's definitely the next priority.
What about you, Ryan?
If I was going to do it based on logic, I would probably have to go for a centre midfielder, but based purely off my own sentiment, I would drop Derek Riordan in there just for that cutting edge, just off the cuff, cutting inside, scoring goals, adding a kind of different dimension to the team, and a bit of a kind of mentality where kind of the world's against us sort of thing, the chip on the shoulder kind of attitude. He's just capable of things that you would never imagine. He could go inside, he could go outside, whip the ball in, score goals, free kicks, penalties. Just honestly, I think he's an unbelievable player for Hibs.
Just a glorified Stevie Malin, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Take throw-ins too if you want him to. But no, I would definitely be inclined to put him in there. Just, I think it's a team that at times lack that kind of goal threat from out with the main sources. But he would definitely give you that option.
Yeah, I think I've just looked at my team again. I'm going for Gary O'Connor. Now, the reason I've went for O'Connor over Stokes or Riordan is this team, how many balls do we get in the box? I feel like a lot flash out.
Not many.
We get a fuckload into the box. I think earlier, especially earlier in the season, we were, and I think O'Connor probably is your more predator over Stokes and Riordan. Over the three, I think. Midfield maybe needs worked on, but goals win you games. Give me a striker that I felt if that can score 20 goals in this team, and Hibs would finish third, no problem. But as far as I'm concerned,
that's not Nisbet. If I'm honest, I'd rather have Nisbet and Kukurevich up front.
Oh, that's a big shout. On the basis you're getting Boozy in, or do you mean even if you want to sub in anyone in?
Even if I wasn't subbing anyone in.
Really?
Yeah, look, I think you've got two strikers there that that are probably ready made for each other. You've got Nisbet, that's maybe the more intricate, can drop deeper. You got Kukurevich, that's wins headers and scores goals and does everything. I think if you get quality balls in there, they pair will finish them.
Yeah.
But the problem is the service. Nisbet's going to score between the end of the World Cup
now and the end of the season.
Aye.
12.
Well, I put him on for top goal scorer in the.
Well, if we get double figures at him, we've done well there, Ken. Well, hopefully that leads us further up the table.
The thing is, but you need to play him with someone like Kukurevich, who will maybe drop it off to him or get him into the areas. But I think Nisbet's very good at dropping in deep, which is my only concern about him scoring double figures.
Nisbet, there's 22 league games left. Kevin Nisbet scores 8 league goals. I think that's
he's a very instinctive striker as well, though.
I think that's a good return for Nisbet. 8 and 22. He's not going to come in and score straight away, is he? Well, he might, but he's not going to be 100%. He's going to be rusty. I think Middlesbrough and Edinburgh City, but
I think if you get eight in those games, so coming back from an ACL injury, that's a decent enough return for somebody that's just had a serious injury.
I think probably what we need to hope for is that we're not looking at him solely. Right now, because Kukurevich, we're singing his praise, he's got 3 goals. I mean, I think he's had about 6 that have been marginally offside. That have been marginally offside, but McCarthy scored.
think as though he's scored 3 goals and he's getting himself in good areas. If you're getting yourself in good areas, you're going to score goals.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might not happen, but over a course of games, if you get yourself in the right positions, you're going to score goals.
Yeah.
My concern is that there's not enough players that chip in with enough goals throughout the course of the season. That's ultimately why we don't win enough points to finish third. Who else have we got in the team that chips in regularly with goals?
Well,
We're struggling.
Again, without getting into a huge debate because it's not what we're going for, but there's been some interesting decisions on the poor run of form that we've been on. I spoke about this in one of the group chats that I think you're in as well, Ryan, over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were all on here at the start of the season, even the games that we didn't win, impressed with what we were seeing. We were on the front.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were really battering teams. We were right on the front foot, getting a million cross. There was a clear style of play.
Yep.
And I might be repeating what one of the guys on Long Bangers actually said last week, but after the Celtic game, we flipped straight to 3-5-2 and it all went away. But in that, he did take some goals out of the team. Like Josh Campbell's hardly featured, and I was a huge critic of him last season, but he's got 4 or 5 goals this season already, and the interview that Johnson's done, he seems to be pinning his hopes onto like Ewan Henderson, or at least he expected it. But Henderson's really flattered to deceive again in the league, so there's been a lot of interesting choices made in this run of games, and there is just a complete lack of goals in the team, which was the same issue as last year. We were berating the defending, but you will concede goals. That's the harsh reality.
Football, eh?
And we've not scored nearly enough since the COVID season. That's my opinion on it ultimately.
And see, if you're not going to score goals, you need to be solid defensively, or you'll not achieve anything.
Aye. And currently we're doing neither. So there we go.
Aye.
That's why we are.
Currently we're shipping loads and scoring none, so that's good.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've just had confirmation of Liam's team in there. So he had Radin up top as well. So I think we can safely secure Derek Radin into the left-hand side of the front three. Anthony Stokes is the striker, and Martin Boyle's going to be on the right-hand side because myself, Harry and Ryan had him. So, do you want to hear the down-the-slope lifetime 11?
Go on then.
Go for it.
Conrad Logan, David Gray, Rob Jones, Frank Soze, David Murphy, Boozy, McGinn, Latipe, Riordan, Stokes, Boyle.
That's some team in it.
Does that team win the league? Or them in their prime? Does it win the league?
By 10 points.
Love it. Right. Let us know what you make of that team on Twitter. We'll put it out probably tomorrow after the pod, after it's out and stuff. And we'll be back next week, and we will be looking ahead to a game at Ibrox, which is on the Thursday night, isn't it? Aye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've made it nice and difficult for everyone to attend football because Thursday night, everyone loves football on a Thursday night. I'm sure there'll be World Cup games on that night and all still, no doubt. But hey, we'll be back next week. Hibs will be back soon, and God, I fucking hope we're better than what we were before the break. Cheers.
Bye.